The NIL inevitable has finally happened. We are in college athletes contract negotiations. Nico Iamaliava is now off the team, Joseph. Welcome to Chat It Up Sports reaction show that I did not want to have.
Yeah. We have entered NIL holdout territory,
It's disgusting.
and it's gross. It feels gross. Um, Reading about this last night, reading about Nico, I thought to myself, I was like, they'll find a way to get this done, right? But also,
Surely.
like you don't want to just bend the knee to a quarterback that does. You don't want to set precedent as a school that you'll just bend the knee to a quarterback that holds out, especially after what we would consider a very average year from Nico last year. I mean, 19
Mhm.
touchdowns, 5 interceptions. I believe it was 11 of those came against UT Chattanooga, UTSA, and Vandy.
Yep.
So 8 and 5 against, sparingly against Vandy, 8 and 5 against Power Four competition, touchdown to interception ratio. Blame it on the O line, blame it on the offensive play calling, blame it on the weapons, whatever. Dylan Sampson was a monster,
Yep.
and you decide to hold out for what is almost a 1.5 times re-up on your salary. For what reason? For what leverage do you have if you're Nico? You were very average last year.
Yeah. And it's just because the market's now reset.
Hmm.
And we talked about it. Bryce Underwood's getting 10 milli.
Hmm.
I think it's gross because the timing.
Yeah.
Like we're this late in the game.
Hmm.
You're putting yourself in a bad spot. I'm sure he's already got a team. I'm sure there's already negotiations in the works. You don't make this move without having a team.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
Fully
it really
expect to see the do not contact tag
Mhm.
on his transfer portal entry.
I just don't understand why now. Like what helped move this in the worst direction? And listen, Tennessee's gonna be fine. Uh you got your redshirt freshmen, and
Hmm.
you have two guys that were in the top 20 in their quarterback recruiting class. So
Yeah.
it helps. It helps. And I don't know where you stand. Like, are you kind of like in a moment where you're like, good for Tennessee for not bending the knee again, or should they have just paid him? I don't know, whatever that money was.
I don't. I'm kind of in both camps. I don't think anybody wins in this situation, especially college football doesn't win in this situation, which is ultimately what I would hope for the most is that the sport moves in a direction where it feels like it makes sense again.
Yeah.
And in this scenario, I kind of guess I like that Tennessee didn't set precedent that they're willing to just sell out whatever for a quarterback, regardless of how they play or what they want. Because at some point you have to draw a line in the sand because you have an allocated budget
Hmm.
as a roster that you can only spend so much on certain positions. And we all know, just like in the NFL, quarterback's going to be top of that list because quarterback's the most important position on the field. But
Hmm.
you can't set precedent that these kids could just come in and be like, well, I'm just going to play here for a year and then hold out because I know the school will give me more money. If I do well enough, I don't even have to do well enough because
Yeah.
Nico was not great last year. I'm not saying he was bad. He was better than some other quarterbacks, but he wasn't like Caleb Williams
No.
or Joe Burrow type season.
No.
He was very average.
Yeah. And it was a disappointment. And you're playing in an offense that is designed for you to, lack of a better term, pad stats. Like
Yeah.
you were in a position where you have all the opportunity given. And this wasn't, I think the play calling's come down since Golish has left.
Mhm.
Your wide receivers are not, you don't have Jalen Hyde out there. You don't have some guys that you'd love to have still playing, but you don't. But they
Yeah.
still have talent. You're
Yeah.
still going to have Thornton, who's going to wind up being a
Mhm.
draft pick probably. It's just so frustrating that we're here and the Tennessee was the example.
Yeah. 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 And it sucks. Reading this is from Chris Lowe and Ross Dellinger today on Twitter. Was it about a year ago that the Tennessee Attorney General sued the NCAA and won over Nico's recruitment. And then now
Wow.
he's gone. He just up and left because he wanted, I think, what were the contract negotiations? Roughly 4 million,
Yeah.
and he was getting like between 2.3 and 2.5 or something like that.
Yeah. This
So
is per year,
almost,
correct? Like, this is per year.
I think so,
Yeah.
because the initial deal was like 8 million over 4 years or something, or however many years he
Yeah.
was at Tennessee. 3, 4, depending on when he decided to declare. But to just initially agree to that, and then after having an average year decide, well, I think I'm worth more than this, so pay me more. No, no, we're not going to do that. What did you
Yeah.
do last year that showed us that we should almost double your salary? Like, if I went to my job, if I went to my boss and was like, "Hey, boss, I know my performance review was like a B minus. I
Yeah.
get it. I had a very average year last year. I think you should pay me 1.5 times more than you're paying me now." They would just laugh. They would look at me and laugh. And thinking about it from that perspective really puts me on Josh Heupel's side. Now, I don't think this isn't what Josh wanted by any means. Am I trying to
No.
say Josh Heupel wanted this? Nobody in the football facilities probably was like, "Yeah, let's push Nico out." I don't think
Yeah.
that's. But they're also like, you have to draw a line, and not being able to essentially upend the rest of your roster so you can pay a quarterback what he thinks he's worth, I think is ultimately a win for Tennessee. And you've got George McIntyre and Jake Merlinger behind him, who are both
Yep.
four-star guys, like you talked about. They are higher up in their quarterback rankings for their class. Maybe you can make some magic with them. I mean, we saw what Josh Heupel was able to do with Hendon Hooker. We saw what he was able to do with Joe Milton. I'm not saying Joe Milton was the best, but Heupel was able to get something out of him. Not quite Hendon Hooker, but
You won
if
9
he can do,
games.
yeah, exactly. And if you can do that, I think you have to believe in your ability as a coach to prep the next guy and be like, you know what, Nico, I understand you want this. We can't give it to you. So we're gonna next man up. That's why we recruit the way we do. That's why we invest the way we do, is so we can have next man up scenarios like this.
Yeah. And especially from their perspective, it's like, well, at least now you get this the spring. I
Hmm.
just can't believe it went down this late. And I'll be interested to see where he goes.
Yeah.
I don't know about you. Do you have a feeling that I don't think he would wind up in the SEC again. I think he's
No.
probably going out west.
Yeah. He was a West Coast guy. My long shot call, and I don't mean this to take a jab at anybody or hurt anybody's feelings. I think he's going to end up winning a Heisman at USC for Lincoln Riley.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't see him going to Oregon because they have Dante Moore. I
Oh,
don't
they
see
love.
them going. I don't see him going to like Colorado because they have Julian Lewis and they have Caden Salter from Liberty. So they've kind of
Former
got,
Vol.
yeah, exactly. So I could see him ending up at like USC or maybe UCLA. Um,
Who's UCLA's coach now?
oh gosh,
I don't even
I don't
know
remember. I don't
because they
remember if
moved.
Eric was it Eric. They moved on from Eric Bieniemy, right?
Yeah, pretty sure it was.
I don't. His name's left me, but if I'm Nico and I want to go back out west, Lincoln Riley's
Oh,
who I
Deshaun
would
Foster.
want to play for. Okay, Deshaun
Yeah, he was
Foster.
hired in February. Yeah, I forgot
Yeah,
about that.
I would want to go play for Lincoln Riley. If they can get close to the 4 million, which knowing USC, they probably will. Maybe get like 3.5, 3.75, something like that. Because you've seen what Lincoln can do with quarterbacks, and you've seen how he elevates quarterbacks. So if you're Nico and you're thinking I can get more money from USC and I can potentially up my draft stock by playing for Lincoln Riley, it just makes the most sense to me.
Yeah.
Because I mean, their quarterback battles, Sam, and I always say his name wrong, Sam Heward,
Yeah, you're right. I
Sam
think so.
Hurd,
Yeah.
and Jordan Mayava. So
And look, your schedule is pretty nice next year if you're USC. Now we don't know. There some of these Purdue teams or Michigan State might be better or Nebraska might be better, but I mean for the most part, you play Notre Dame and Oregon.
yeah,
And whatever you think about Iowa. But
I
that's
mean,
it.
Iowa's was going to be a tough out. They play good defense, like, but they're not going to be an offensive juggernaut.
Yeah. It's an
And plus,
exposure
with
game. And you play them at
exactly,
home.
yeah, and the way USC's recruiting, I think Lincoln, because they have the number one recruiting class right now for 2026, and I know it's a really long way off. So, but that take that with a grain of salt. But if you can convince Nico to come and play a year under Lincoln, and then stay for one more year, pay him another 3.5 million,
Yeah.
you've got all these recruits that are coming in. USC could look dangerous in 2026.
Yeah. And it's a
So,
much better, I guess. And look, this might have just been a play. He might have, like, hey, we really want you out here.
yeah.
Well, I know Tennessee ain't going to do this. It does kind of feel like that to me now. It definitely just feels like a play. Hey, I want out
Mhm.
and I really want to go to this place. Here's what I'm going to do. Yeah, I think it's just a bad look for Nico. I really do. I thought, he had the calm, cool, collected. I'm going to stay here. I love Tennessee. That look's going to go away real fast, especially with 18 to 23-year-old guys. I
Yeah.
think that's what sucks is this is very life uneducated people when it comes
Mhm.
to this. And you're going to have a lot of people in the corners lying to you and talking about money. And it's just like, man, you're going to leave for an extra $100,000. And you know what? Go get your bag, but do not expect there to be zero backlash. Do not expect there to be, nobody calling you out for your moral compass because it does look
Yeah.
bad. It does look bad. It's going to look bad. I hope more teams just kind of set the precedent. I hope these just look. That's the thing about the Michigan part is you're just having people pour money in, like $10 million for a guy that's not even played yet.
Yeah.
Look, we did the same thing with Nico's. Like we paid $8 million for a guy that's not even played yet, and that was
Mhm.
early on. But
Yeah.
this market just keeps going up. It's just like the quarterback market in the NFL right now. It's just going to keep going up. And you're going to get in your Deshaun Watson situation. You're going to get in just really bad spots overall. And I hope coaches, I hope collectives, I hope these deals that are going to be coming with the TV rights, I guess that we're all in the works already now after
Mhm.
last Monday. The cap, the structures, it has to be really, really good here
Yeah.
coming up the next 2 years, or we're going to get this situation all the time because it's a copycat league when it comes to contract stuff. That's what I'm
Mhm.
afraid of. Is this Nico might have been the first one to kick off this whole thing, but we're going to have this every year. There's going to
Yeah.
be somebody, especially like the ego that you got going on nowadays,
Yeah.
man. It's going to
A-
be brutal.
At least until we get to some kind of revenue sharing model,
Yeah,
and where every school has, excuse me, where every school has a GM that takes care of stuff like this,
yeah.
roster management, budget allocation, for positions and things like that. And I hope this didn't, until we get to that rev share model, I hope this didn't kick open a door for other players to be like, well, Nico did it. Like,
Nico did
let
it.
me see what I can do.
This
Like,
was a big deal on a
yeah,
Saturday, on Masters Saturday.
yeah.
This took over Twitter.
During spring football,
Yeah,
like Tennessee's spring game was it today
yeah.
or is it today?
It's today. That's why everybody was like, whenever he didn't show up yesterday, that showed the sign.
Yeah. And this started what, Thursday?
Really? Yeah, Thursday. I mean,
Thursday?
it just
Like
and
the
like a
first
lot
few
of
reports
people,
come out, yeah.
yeah, and it didn't. And didn't you kind of? I know you and I we talked about it, but mostly like I just kind of was like, let's wait it out. I mean,
Yeah.
this could be just total BS when it comes to normal spring ball, but now it's just elevated to a different level. I don't know. This is
Yeah.
I thought this would fly by. I thought we'd figure something out. Like contracts figured out. It's not nearly as much as everybody says. It just kind of we just blew it out of proportion.
Yeah.
Nope.
Yep.
Here we are. We lost, I guess, the biggest recruit we've had in 15 years, 20 years. I don't know.
Um, he's the biggest recruit under Josh Heupel for sure.
Oh, yeah.
And he's just, and I think what makes this so worse is what you'd mentioned about timing. Like if
Yeah.
this had happened like a couple of weeks after the Ohio State game, it would have been like, oh yeah, it sucks. Um, it wouldn't have been quite the blow it is now, where it's spring ball. Everybody's kind of we're about to round the corner where everybody gets kind of back into football mode and they start thinking about Labor Day weekend and the opening games and you just get this gut punch that's like, oh hey, your starting quarterback's gone.
Yeah. Somebody
It's
you thought
just
was going to change your program.
yeah, yeah. And to speak on what you mentioned about making moves like this and not expect blowback, it's you can't you can't not expect blowback from a fan base of a program that you weren't loyal to. You can't
Mhm.
expect that fan base to be loyal to you when you weren't loyal to their program.
Yeah. Especially this fan
Yeah,
base.
yeah.
It's not going
It's
to be good. This is,
no,
I hope you make the right move, Nico. I hope this is like for your benefit as a human being. Like, go do your thing, man. This fan base ain't nice. It's
no.
not going to be. This is not going
Mm-mm.
to be a gentle walkthrough. You're going to get ridiculed for probably the next 4 or 5 months till something else happens
Oh,
for
dude.
football. It's going to be awful. It's going to be really tough. And look, I hate there are jerks out there that are going to like do stuff and make it really annoying, but
Yeah.
it's going to happen. And to be honest, I think there are going to be, for the most part, there's not that many jerks. Like that's going to be a really crappy part of it. But I'm going to be honest with you, I won't mind the humor that Tennessee fans bring, like the large majority.
Mhm.
He's going to deserve that much,
Yeah.
much so. That's going to
And
be
that
funny. Those guys are going to be hilarious. These stories are coming out like he's going to get roasted and it's going to be in a lighthearted manner for the most
mhm,
part. Those are
mhm.
the ones I think he deserves, not the crab
Yeah.
holes, but yeah.
Yeah, don't like actually attack him, but because I mean, you got to think about it too. If you're 20 years old, 21 years old, and someone's handing you $4 million to be average at something, in retrospect, obviously he's not average at football because to make it to major D1 college football, you have to be talented.
Yep.
But average in terms of retrospect to who he's playing against, you just double your money. It's tempting, because you're young and you're like, this is money that you'll potentially never make again in your life, depending on how your NFL route goes. And
Yeah.
I I just hate it. I hate everything about the situation. Ultimately, I hate
Yeah.
everything about it.
I hate it for both sides.
Hmm.
Put you in a tough spot.
Yeah,
Yeah, I mean, even down to the football part of it. Could have been given one reps to your other two guys for weeks. Could have had a
hmm,
fun quarterback battle. Nico goes and moves on. Like, do your own thing. That's fine. But the day before your spring game, that's how you do it. That's a really ugly look. And look, you live and you learn. I'm sure this will be a situation for Nico. It's like, I should have been better.
yeah,
I didn't
yeah,
handle that great. My family didn't handle that great. But here we are. You
yeah.
handled it bad. You did it. And you're
Yep.
gonna live and learn from it. But dadgum, dude, I hope people are not trying to put every team in a pigeonhole. And it'll happen. Like this is, I think that's why it's so frustrating. It's just like, dadgum, dude, you're putting
Hmm.
yourself in a terrible spot with a fan base. And it looks rough. I think to everybody else, like to the national media, it's kind of looking the same. It's like, what are we doing? Both sides are stupid. Like I saw Peyton
Yeah,
talk about that today. It's like,
yeah,
Knoxville, what a disaster. It's like, yeah, it sure is. It sure is. But you cannot pay this guy because then everybody else in that team that does halfway decent is going to be like,
yeah,
well, I want to get paid. It's like, well, man, we can't do all that.
yeah,
I just don't know how they're going to fix it. I don't know how they're going to
yeah.
fix it.
And it's like if you were gonna up Nico like that, then how much should you have paid Dylan Sampson?
Oh
How
yeah,
much should you have upped Dylan Sampson's salary? Um,
yeah,
I guess my mind shifts now to these quarterback battles that are happening around college football. So with Ty Simpson and Keelan Russell at Alabama, with Tavian St. Clair and Julian Sayin at Ohio State, like if one of those guys doesn't win, could we see them end up at Tennessee? Like, is Tennessee going to play the transfer market? Are they going to play the transfer quarterback market? Because now all of a sudden they have 2.5 million,
Yep.
to 3 million that they can spend on a guy that they want to, or do they just go with somebody in house? Like maybe Josh has seen, obviously he's seen George McIntyre and Jake Merlinger. Maybe he's seen something he likes, something that he can work with, and that's why he wasn't. I don't want to say wasn't too broken up, but wasn't opposed to letting Nico walk.
Because he let him walk, I kind of feel like he's okay with it, or they have somebody they think they could get.
Yeah.
My first perception was he likes the two guys.
Yeah.
Or and let's be honest, he could probably do just as well with. Last year's team, Nico had some pretty decent moments, but for the most part, it was just fine. Thank goodness
Defense and running back.
Defense and running back.
Yep.
But he just didn't complete. Like he had the Milton syndrome a couple times, like overthrows and misses, and it's like we saw this last year. We just have more. You just have more top end hope for Nico. Like I hate to say that about him, but it's like if he was a senior doing that, you'd be like, well, that's the same thing as Joe Milton. It's the exact same thing. It's just perception of how you look at him, because you're like the ceiling's.
Yeah,
it's Michael Jordan. The ceiling is the roof, baby.
Yeah,
But
he had first-year starter tendencies, like running out of bounds against Arkansas in a clutch. Like that's just first-year starter tendencies.
Yep.
He hasn't. He's been on the roster, yeah, but he hasn't been there before. Like he hasn't been in that type of scenario, and that's why you think in year two you're naturally expecting this level of progression, which we still might get, but he'll just be wearing a different colored jersey.
Yeah. And Halsey's talked about Merlinger, just talking about, he said, here's a couple quotes from him. He's like, going through his first spring as a freshman, your first fall camp as a freshman, you're drinking from a fire hose right from the rip. But he has a different feel about him on the field. He's not pressing. He's calm. You can see it in the pocket. So, look, you're going to talk about good about your guy, but it's like, hey, I'll take calm. If you give me calm as one of the first thing you say about him, you need that. We really need that. And Nico wasn't that calm a lot. You could tell that in the Ohio State game, and a lot of people are going to be in that mode anyways for what feels like a humongous game in Columbus. Don't get me wrong, but gun man, it just felt like all year there was just too much. He was pressing too much. He wasn't calm, cool, and collected like we'd hope. Like he wasn't the cool guy. So maybe the jitters might have got out of him that year one, but dadgum, man, he had a long ways to go too. So I'm sure you're going to get Merlinger. But to your point, it does make me feel now that one of those quarterback battles, one of those guys is going to do this over the summer. Nico set a precedent, and he's probably going to get a bag somewhere. You're not leaving without at least knowing. Yeah. So if USC gives him the 3.75, it doesn't matter if he gets that 3.75 or that $4 million from Tennessee or from USC, he still gets it. So it's
he's still getting paid.
He still wins in that scenario. Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter where he gets it. Sure, you would have liked for it to be at UT, but guess what? It ain't happening. But I promise you he's going to go get it somewhere else. So these guys know that I will get paid somewhere else. And if you're okay with that, you're okay with burning bridges, which you did. You're burning bridges from here to wherever you're going, brother. But if you're that Alabama situation, it's like, I can just go up 3.5 hours to Knoxville, 4 hours to Knoxville. Get paid a pretty good amount.
I'm the backup quarterback at Alabama, or I'm the backup quarterback at Ohio State. I'm only getting like $1.5 million. I can go on down to Knoxville and secure that 2.5 that they just freed up.
Yeah.
Be a starting quarterback. Josh Heupel.
Yeah. Especially with the talent you have, you always feel now with the 12 team, not the 4, with the 12 team, you're like, we can get in. If that team last year can get in, you can get in. Yeah. So that's how you have to feel. If you're Tennessee, you're like, man, no matter if I go down there, I got a better shot than most people. And you get in, you kind of feel like you have a chance no matter what.
Yeah.
So that's where they're at. I don't know. I don't know where you go if you're Josh, and it really sucks this late. But I don't know. I don't see where the change has to be made. But try out your freshman. At least you feel confident enough now to say, go ahead and walk, because you have to think, if you're the coaching staff, of, okay, we let Nico walk and we don't get somebody else in the portal, we have to be okay with these two freshmen, redshirt freshmen.
Mhm.
I don't know. I guess he feels confident enough.
Yeah.
You gotta hope we are.
Yeah, you gotta hope, right?
Yeah.
Like, you gotta hope what they're seeing in practice translates.
Yeah.
And who knows? We say this, speculating. We don't actually know. Josh could be looking at his roster and being like, "Hey, we had to let Nico walk because we couldn't upturn the entire roster to pay one guy, but I don't feel great about where we are at quarterback with
Yeah.
Merlinger and McIntyre." You hope as a fan, and you speculate that these guys are good and Josh has confidence in them, but you really don't know until either you sign a transfer quarterback, which would probably be a sign, or you don't, and you're rolling into that opening game at Syracuse, and Merlinger's running out to the huddle.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it just
Man,
sucks.
it really
It just
sucks. And
sucks.
I hate it. Again, I'm
Like,
going to say it again. I just hate that Tennessee was the example.
mhm.
You just hate that this happened, because personally, from the interviews and things like that, and the way he walks and carries himself, I just never thought this would be Nico. I
Yeah,
never really thought it. Like,
yeah.
you tell me that's I don't know, whoever else. Miami's quarterback now. Your old quarterback. Beck.
Oh, Carson Beck.
I hate to say it. You tell me that's Carson Beck.
Yeah.
I kind of
Or if
get it.
you'd have seen something like from Cam Ward like this last year,
Yes.
you
That's a
know,
better example. Cam Ward's
somebody
a way
who
better example.
is a star and had an incredible season
Yeah.
playing at Washington State before he went to Miami.
Yeah.
Like, someone who had put in on paper, like, "Hey, I can be your guy, but I know what I'm worth."
Yeah.
Versus Nico being like, "I just want more money."
Yeah. The market being reset, thanks to Bryce Underwood, to be honest. That's gonna cause a lot of controversy.
Yeah.
But I think Tennessee did a good job for the totality of everybody. We said no.
I think that's a win for programs across the country. That
Yeah.
that Tennessee was a program that aspires to be a dominant program in college football, was willing to look at a player that they invested heavily in and be like, "Listen, we understand you want more, but we just don't feel like you're worth that right now." And
No.
I think it makes me curious how the rest of this transfer portal cycle, if we'll get holdouts from other players. Because
I feel like it's
if
coming.
I think we'll get less than we would have had the alternative happened. Now, had we seen
Very good point.
Tennessee pony up the money and pay Nico, I think we would have seen more holdouts. But the fact that they were willing to let their starting quarterback walk kind of makes me feel like other players will look at that and be like, "I don't know if I can get that kind of money." Now, it also depends on where you are, because some
Yeah.
programs will pay up, some programs will pony up that kind of money probably. Other programs won't.
I'd like to see too how much he gets from his next place.
Agreed.
Because if he goes out and gets more than we thought,
Yeah.
that might be scary. If he gets less, it's like, well, what did he win? Like, let's say they're only he only winds up getting $3 million. I don't know, whatever.
Yeah.
Because then now the other school is like, well, where are you going to go? You burned
Yeah.
every bridge. Like, we're your best bet.
Yeah.
Now I say that, but if you're USC, it's like, yeah, we'll take this.
Yeah.
But I hope the next program fights back a little bit. I think college football needs that. If you can set the precedent, you get the ball a little lower,
Mhm.
things can start to balance out. Because if not, if he winds up going to get more than the reported money, it's just all about narrative and perception is like, oh no.
Mhm.
Now these guys are getting more than we thought. It's like, oh, this guy's going to get 5 million. This guy's going to get 4 million. That's where I'm afraid of that it could happen out of this situation. Right now, it feels good. It feels like, okay, he's going to move on, probably still get paid a decent amount, but it's the same level of
Mhm.
suck. But
Yeah.
if he gets more, I think people are like, well, I could believe if that school's paying, and you're just going to battle it out. These rich guys at these schools are going to just keep going up. And like, if somebody like Nebraska might be like, oh crap, I got to pony up some money again.
Yeah.
That's
Like,
what you're afraid of.
especially starting quarterbacks look at their like if Dylan Raiola at Nebraska looks at his team is like, well, if Nico pony up for more money, I can too. But it also depends on, specifically speaking about the possibility because we don't know where Nico's going to go.
We don't.
Let's just throw that out there first. We don't know that he's going to USC. There haven't been any official reports. We've seen, on social media, the favorites, and some people are tweeting about these programs, but we don't actually know. The thing I would be worried or curious about with USC is the way that they've been recruiting, especially going forward. It looks like they're probably already allocating parts of their NIL budget to future roster moves. So if
Mm-hmm.
Nico is going to USC, he could get more money. I don't think he'll get more than he was asking Tennessee for because I think USC is also in a position where they're like, yeah, Nico, we'll pay you more than Tennessee was, but we're going to pay you maybe like 3.25 because we've allocated this money to other transfers and our roster coming up because we want to put a bigger emphasis on high school recruiting because ultimately that's what has had the most success in college football. Still to this day has had the most success. Now we've seen great things from like programs like Ole Miss and Colorado but the big boy programs that are still winning the most have the emphasis on high school recruiting. So that makes me think that if he does go to USC, he could get more than he was getting at Tennessee, but I don't know if he'll get more than what he was asking for.
True. I agree with that. I heard, I just read this really good one from Mike Wilson. I'm going to put a caveat in front of it for me. He
Mhm.
better ball out before I say this, but I think this might wind up being true. Mike Wilson from Knox News said Nico's Tennessee career will be remembered for NIL chasing more than it will for football.
Yeah.
That's a fact for now. For the Tennessee career,
Yeah.
For his football career, he better go ball out. But for his Tennessee career now, he's just an NIL chaser. And that
Yeah.
sucks.
Yeah. That's what he's known for being the Bryce Underwood of his year because 8 million at the time that was the
Crazy
12
number.
million we heard about for Bryce or
Yeah.
10 or 12 million we heard about for Bryce. Like that was like, oh, they paid a high school kid $8 million. Obviously that's been upped since then, but that's going to be his legacy, regardless of how well he does in the future. He'll always have that legacy at Tennessee
Yep.
that he was paid a lot of money up front, decided after an average year it wasn't enough, and then left.
Yeah. We'll never get it back.
Nope.
Was an amazing time. Like you just with Nico, it definitely had that feel of we get this right, we can win big.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And you get to the playoff, it's awesome, but you still feel like there was a lot more left in the tank.
Yeah.
And it sucks because I'm going to look down upon Nico, like his career. It's like, well, he wasn't that great. Maybe he goes and he's awesome, but for now, it's like, he could have been better. He was an NIL chaser. He was
Yeah.
He was an arrogant guy. Like that's how you're going to look at it. Like 15 years from now, you're like, yeah, he was arrogant. He left. Is like trying to just hold out. He put us in a terrible spot. Blah blah blah. He's never going to be liked again in Knoxville for the most part.
No.
That's what sucks too. Is like he's a good dude overall. I think he just made a really poor choice in how he handled a situation. He may have made the right choice for him moving on, but he handled this situation wrong for his family. But it doesn't matter. You are the guy. It is your decision somehow or some way.
Mm-hmm.
Good luck on your next career somewhere else. But
Yeah.
good job for
And
Tennessee sticking to him.
something you were talking about just now made me think about it. With them, essentially deciding not to own up the extra money, it makes me think that Tennessee has taken an outside look at other programs and the success that those other programs have had. specifically talking about from a national championship perspective, because the last four quarterbacks that have won national championships were Will Howard,
Yep.
J.J. McCarthy, and then Stetson Bennett twice. Before those four, there wasn't really like a there were sensational quarterbacks in Bryce Young, or no, Bryce Young didn't win a title. Sorry, in Joe Burrow and well, Mac Jones was kind of the outlier, I guess. But that roster was so loaded.
Yeah, he was
But
so loaded. He was, yeah.
my ultimate point is that I think Tennessee has taken an outside look at other programs and what has led to them having ultimate success, and it's been the rosters around. I don't want to say average quarterbacks, but good enough quarterbacks instead of having a sensational quarterback. Because if you look at like what Tennessee's plan was for Nico was probably that he was going to be a generational talent
Hmm.
quarterback.
Yep.
Um, but we saw a generational talent in, and you throw that term around loosely. We saw a upper level quarterback in Caleb Williams who never won a national title. Joe Burrow was one that did win a national title, but he only got one out of the 2 years he played.
And you did not expect that until the last year. He was not
No,
that. He was not that guy coming from Ohio State.
no, and you didn't. I mean, even watching that 2018 LSU team, like you thought they were good. I don't know if anybody thought they were going to be as good as that. There
You,
were probably a few that were like, this 2019 LSU team is going to be really good. I don't know if anybody thought they were going to be as good as they actually were.
yeah, possibly the goat of all teams. Yeah.
Exactly. But if you're Tennessee, you look around and you're like, is it really worth it to just pay this much more for a quarterback when the last four national title winners have all had good quarterbacks, but not generational quarterbacks? Like
Yeah.
J.J. McCarthy was good. Will Howard was good. Stetson Bennett was good, but they weren't Caleb Williams or Joe Burrow. They weren't Trevor Lawrence. They weren't what was
No.
winning in the late 2010s, with Deshaun Watson and Trevor Lawrence and Joe Burrow and these oh, this guy's definitely an NFL first round guy.
Hmm.
Like Will Howard and JJ McCarthy, I know JJ McCarthy was taken in the first round, but Will Howard and JJ McCarthy and Stetson Bennett, those guys weren't like, okay, clear out all your cap space, you've got to draft this guy.
Nope.
And I think Tennessee making a move like this to not pay Nico kind of makes me think they realize that. They're like, hey, if we can, you know, this is our budget for a quarterback. If we can get a guy that's not serviceable, but like good, not great, and we put the rest of the money into the roster around him, we can have the same success that Ohio State had last year, and Michigan had the year before that, and Georgia had the year before that, and Alabama had in 2020. Where if you make the roster around the quarterback good enough, you don't have to have a generational talent playing quarterback for you in college football.
No. That's such a good point because last year it's like you had generational wide receivers,
Yeah.
two great running backs, an unbelievable defense.
Mhm.
And McCarthy and Will Howard both, in my perspective, are guys that were pretty good, great talent around them, but they did show up in big moments. I'll
Yeah.
give them that. You can go back, I mean, whatever you want to talk about. He had a really good Oregon game overall.
Oh, yeah.
I know that was a tough play, but you're talking seconds. Good luck out there. 5 seconds on the
Yeah.
road. Okay.
Mhm.
All right. Smart guys out there that tell me you're just going to make the perfect throw at the perfect time.
Yeah, it's like it's really easy to watch the last 15 seconds of that game 2 hours after it's happened and be like, "Oh, well, he should have done this."
Yeah. It's like, dude,
Yeah, that's
that was a
easy.
great game. You made some plays. And overall, he was a guy that really stepped up in I thought he did a great job in the playoff for the most part. And
Mhm.
he was good, man. He was really good. But like you mentioned, these guys aren't tearing it up. And McCarthy had the huge Ohio State game, like all these
Mhm.
big games, the right moments, but then also he had a lot of, yeah, 17 for 21,
Yeah.
168 yards, and
The second
had,
half of the Penn State game where they ran the ball,
yeah, it's all
literally just ran the ball.
because you have
Like,
two absolute units in the backfield, dude.
exactly. Because you're not what Lincoln Riley has been the last 10 years,
Yes.
where you have exceptional quarterback play, but the rest of the roster is just lacking.
Yeah. It doesn't pan out. Got anything else, Joseph?
No. I mean,
Yeah.
I feel like we could sit and talk about it all day, but
Same.
like I feel like we'd ultimately just end up saying the same things we've already said, and that's that it sucks.
It does suck.
It just sucks. Like for you being a Tennessee fan, it sucks. I don't have the fandom attached but as
You
a
can
college
relate.
football fan, it just sucks
Yeah, you can be
because it
empathetic
just
towards it because you could see it happening for your own team. Now you're like,
yeah,
you
yeah,
start you start to think about your guys. You're like, what if this X player from Georgia does this tomorrow?
yeah.
I don't
Like
know, man.
what?
It's one of those that it'll take a few minutes to get over
Yeah.
until you're gonna be wondering. It's something to talk about. Mike Keith, welcome to Tennessee sports.
Hmm.
But man, it'll be one to remember forever that we were the precedent. Like we were the first contract holdout. Kind of sucks in that regard, but you will find more and more of these coming, and I hope everyone in college football kind of stands up. Like, hey, we ain't gonna give you that. You can go
Yeah.
on if you got a team, but guess what? There's only so many guys that can leave. There's only so many teams that are going to take this on. There's only so many $1 million donors. It's like, well, this guy's going to pay this, but yeah, guess what? Okay, so now Oregon and Ohio State and Michigan all have endless amounts. All three of them can't win a national championship.
Yeah.
So bidding wars adieu. It'll still just make top teams fight for it again. It's going to look the same as always. Now you're just adding dollar figures to it.
Yeah. Yeah. And this late in the game, most of those NIL budgets have probably already been allocated.
Yeah,
Like,
especially I don't know how much more you can go back and be like, well, we got this guy.
yeah.
I don't know how many times you can keep asking donors to do that if you're going to finish 8-5,
And
or I guess
especially when,
USC's 7-6 or whatever they wound up finishing.
yeah. And especially when you're not just selling yourself, like you can't just sit back and sell yourself on potential because people have film on you from last year.
Yeah, yeah,
Now, if you're Lincoln Riley, Mr. Quarterback Guru, you can
that's your
probably look at
guy.
that and yeah. But if you're like UCLA, who's probably more than a quarterback away, or like Washington, who's also probably more than a quarterback away, it's like, is that really a good investment to see? Because we saw what Nico was when the roster looked the way it did. Like, does our roster really look better than that? Like, are we surrounding him with better than what Tennessee surrounded him with last year? And there's some schools that are for sure, but they're probably not going to pony up that kind of money for Nico. They've probably already got their quarterback to take care of.
Yeah. Be very interesting to see, man. It'll be very interesting to see, especially if he winds up going somewhere that we don't expect and he goes into a lesser conference. Who knows? Because
Yeah,
and the only reason I say that, and I know we can keep spinning, but I got to go. But
yeah.
it is a situation now where teams like BYU are ponying up so much money for basketball that
Mhm.
who knows? We may not even see this coming. And that may be
Yeah,
so scary because somebody's just going to pay an enormous amount because Nico's going to put butts in seats at
yep.
X school for the new Pac 12 or whatever school it's going to be. I don't know. Wild Wild West still continues, and I don't know how to get rid of it, Joseph.
I don't either, man. I hope something happens. I
Me
hope
too.
I hope this rev sharing deal is, I don't know, at least makes some kind of sense because right now feels like nothing in the sport makes sense.
Exactly. Money without structure is a terrifying thing. Like and subscribe everywhere. We love yous. Go Vols, man. At least it's baseball season. Beat Ole Miss. So, yeah. All right. Peace out. Like and subscribe everywhere. At Chat Up Sports for Chase Green, Joseph Guthrie, the rest of the boys. Hope everybody has a great weekend. Hello, friends. Masters weekend is here.